waited patiently for the verdict in the wrongful death trial of Richard Phelps, the homeless man who was crushed to death after seeking shelter inside a garbage dumpster. Here it is.
We, the jury, find 1, was USA Waste of Oregon, USA Waste, negligent in failing to determine whether a refuse container was occupied before compacting or dumping its contents, and if so, was such negligence a cause of damage to plaintiff? Answer, no. Question 2, was USA Waste negligent in failing to instruct its employees to determine whether a refuse container was occupied before compacting or dumping its contents, and if so, was such negligence a cause of damage to plaintiff? Answer, no.
All right, joining us now, the attorney for Waste Management of Oregon, Stephen Madison, along with civil attorney and former prosecutor, Sari Kolich. Now, I want to start with you, Steve, because you've got there's a side of you that has to feel empathetic and sympathetic for not only the victim, but his family. On the other hand, I've got to say, I really agreed with the juror's verdict. Were you ever in doubt?
We weren't, and it was absolutely the right decision. All the while we were empathetic and again express our condolences to the Phelps and Bassett families. But you know, juries are amazing organisms, and in this case, after a 2-week trial, they were out about an hour and a half and came back with a unanimous verdict, and it was the right decision.
Did you speak with any of them?
We did not. Under Oregon rules, you're not permitted to interview jurors unless the jurors contact you, and they did not do that in this case. But, Catherine, there was a footnote to the verdict which was fascinating, and that was the foreperson said that they wanted to express as a group, the jury, that they would implore the city of Portland and the state of Oregon to try to address the problem of homelessness, and particularly the mentally ill homeless. As you know, Mr. Phelps was severely mentally ill at the time that he died, and that was absolutely one of our themes, that this case was not really properly decided in a courtroom, but should be decided and addressed in City Hall and in the state capitol.
Well, there are multiple layers of, I think, culpability here, but let me play a soundbite about alleging that the company knew and didn't care.
If you know that you got this much stuff and you're going to turn it into this much stuff, and you know that people are common in the stuff you're crushing, that's not like negligence if you don't do anything. That's different. That's about conscious indifference, wanton misconduct, knowing, not caring.
Sorry, I think that's a bit of an exaggeration to say that people are common in the stuff that you're crushing. But what about this sort of thing? It is not unforeseeable that the homeless might be climbing in the dumpsters, whether to sleep or to search for food, other things. Where's the line?
Well, you know, certainly while people can go places they're not supposed to go, it becomes a little burdensome on a company to have to take into consideration everything people may do that they're not supposed to do, when it really can interfere with just the ordinary course of their job. It's very difficult if you have to, every dumpster you pick up in the city, if you have to go, then go and basically into the dumpster and check to make sure no one's there.
But if you have a pond on your property and you don't fence it in and someone wanders in, uninvited trespassers, or if your swimming pool is not appropriately fenced and locked, we think of all of the things where we're basically required in today's society to be our brother's keeper, sometimes in the extreme.
That's true. I think in this situation it really comes down to what's reasonable. And you know, while there are instances of people climbing into dumpsters for shelter and for warmth and looking for food, it doesn't appear to be incredibly common, or you'd have this happening a lot more often than it does. Yeah. So it's not incredibly common, and there's certainly other things that can be done on a far less intrusive nature. You can put a sign up, which certainly may not deter a homeless person, but certainly a sign should be put up. There's really other things that can be done that wouldn't be as intrusive as really requiring the Waste Management Company to check each dumpster.
Yeah. Steve, let me ask you about that. One of the points that complainant's attorney made again and again in front of this jury was that there were requests, in fact, settlement requests and conversations with you about at least having a policy meeting, talking about this, trying to think of alternatives. Now, I think maybe we got a bit of an exaggeration. You tell us. Was that basically what they wanted to settle this case?
Well, they want the problem to go away, but they're not very good, regrettably, about offering a solution that'll work. As Sari said, just in Portland alone, USA Waste picks up millions of these containers every year. This was the first death on record for that company. And so when it came to a solution that was reasonable and viable, Mr. Kafuri really didn't have one, and I think the jury recognized that.
Since all of this, though, have you had the meeting, had the conversation? Because he was basically accusing you of not even discussing it as a policy issue within the company.
Well, that was sort of an urban myth that was created very artfully by Mr. Kafuri, that Waste Management, USA Waste, was indifferent. And I can tell you firsthand, this is a great company. The men and women of that company are not indifferent to this. And actually, the evidence that we presented showed that the drivers are in the best position to make these judgments. They know that there are homeless people, and that was what the jury found.
Well, I wish we had more time on this very important case, but your response is right. We need to be caring for these people before they resort to that. Steve Madison, Sari Kolech, thanks very much. 13th Juror next.